Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a shocking turn in the Russia-Ukraine war that has rattled military analysts across the globe. Ukrainian missiles have struck and destroyed a massive $1.5 billion Russian artillery warehouse, one of the largest stockpiles of weapons fueling the Kremlin's front lines. The explosion was so powerful, it lit up the night sky for miles, sending shockwaves through both the battlefield and the Russian command. What happened next not only exposed vulnerabilities in Moscow's strategy, but also shifted the balance of psychological warfare in ways few could have predicted. The strike came under the cover of darkness, when Russian forces least expected it. Satellite images captured the moment the missiles hit, igniting a chain reaction inside the colossal warehouse. Flames erupted like a volcano, ammunition cooked off in deafening blasts, and plumes of black smoke rose high above the countryside. Residents living miles away reported windows rattling and skies glowing red, as though dawn had arrived hours too early. For Russia, this wasn't just a warehouse lost. It was billions in fire and ash. When the sun rose the following morning, the full devastation was undeniable. Craters gaped where reinforced walls once stood. Twisted metal and shattered concrete littered the landscape, and the skeleton of what had been a cornerstone of Russia's supply chain smoldered in silence. Videos from the scene spread quickly across social media, showing explosions tearing through the night like thunder. Every blast a reminder of Ukraine's growing reach and precision. In Moscow, the Kremlin scrambled to control the narrative. State television downplayed the strike, calling it a localized incident and insisting that operations would not be affected. But independent footage and eyewitness accounts told a very different story. Analysts noted that such a massive loss of artillery and ammunition could cripple Russian offensives for weeks, if not months. The carefully built illusion of overwhelming Russian supply superiority had been shattered in a single night. Inside Ukraine, celebrations rippled through cities and villages. Civilians who had endured months of bombardments cheered as the news spread. Soldiers at the front lines passed around phones, their faces lighting up at the footage of flames consuming the enemy's stockpile. For them, it wasn't just a tactical victory, it was justice, a strike that carried both symbolic weight and real consequences. Every shell that would have been fired at Ukrainian homes was now dust in the wind. Western intelligence agencies quickly weighed in, confirming the strike and praising Ukraine's ability to hit such a high-value target deep inside Russian-held territory. Commentators in Washington and London highlighted the boldness of the operation, noting that precision and timing indicated advanced coordination. Speculations swirled over whether Western-supplied weapons had been used, though officials remained deliberately vague. What mattered more was the message. Ukraine could reach the heart of Russia's supply machine and dismantle it piece by piece. For Russian commanders on the ground, the loss was devastating. Reports surfaced of frantic efforts to reroute supplies, convoys stretched thin, and units forced to ration shells. Soldiers complained of shortages, their once steady barrage of artillery fire suddenly sputtering. Morale, already strained by months of grinding warfare, cracked further under the weight of this latest blow. If Ukraine could destroy one warehouse, what else could it strike next? The international press seized the story, plastering images of the inferno across front pages and evening broadcasts. Headlines framed it as a turning point, a moment when Ukraine proved it could hit not just symbolic targets, but also the backbone of Russia's war machine. Analysts debated whether this marked the beginning of a broader campaign aimed at systematically dismantling Russia's logistics, forcing the Kremlin into an unsustainable war of attrition. Meanwhile, within Russia, whispers spread quickly despite censorship. Families of soldiers voiced concern over supply shortages, and some even questioned why such a critical facility had been left so vulnerable. Social media platforms buzzed with anger and disbelief, with citizens demanding answers the state was unwilling or unable to provide. For ordinary Russians, The illusion of endless resources had gone up in flames alongside the warehouse. By the end of the week, the warehouse strike had become more than just a military event. It was a psychological earthquake. Ukraine had proven its ability to strike where it hurt most. Russia had been forced to acknowledge its fragility, and the world had witnessed yet another shift in the tides of war. The smoking ruins of that $1.5 billion facility stood as proof. In this conflict, no fortress is unbreakable, and no stockpile safe from the fire of determination. As investigators sifted through the ruins of the warehouse, the sheer scale of the destruction became clear. Mountains of scorched artillery shells lay in molten heaps, charred beyond recognition, while the skeletal remains of transport vehicles were fused into the ground. Engineers estimated that nearly 70% of the facility's contents had been obliterated in the blaze, representing one of the single greatest losses of Russian munitions since the war began. The site, once guarded with heavy defenses, now resembled a graveyard of steel and fire. Satellite imagery released by Western intelligence agencies confirmed what local reports had already shown. The warehouse wasn't just damaged, it was annihilated. Before and after photos revealed sprawling complexes reduced to black craters, warehouses leveled, and supply lines severed. For Ukraine's allies, the images became a powerful symbol of the country's resilience, while for Russia, they served as a humiliating reminder that their defenses were failing where they mattered most. Inside Russian military circles, panic spread. Commanders convened urgent meetings, debating how such a crucial facility had been left vulnerable. Some blamed poor intelligence. Others pointed fingers at outdated air defense systems that had failed to intercept the incoming missiles. The chain of accountability grew murky, and whispers of incompetence climbed dangerously close to Moscow's highest offices. For soldiers on the front lines, however, none of this mattered. What mattered was the dwindling supply of shells that once arrived in steady streams but now came in trickles. In Ukraine, the mood was defiant yet sober. While many celebrated the destruction of the warehouse, officials reminded the public that the war was far from over. Still, for families who had endured relentless shelling, the news felt like vindication. Parents told their children that each explosion captured in the footage was one less missile that could fall on their homes. Hope, fragile but persistent, flickered a little brighter that night. Internationally, the strike sparked heated debate. Some Western leaders praised Ukraine's ingenuity and boldness, framing the operation as a sign that Kyiv could force Moscow into a defensive posture. Others, however, expressed concern about escalation, warning that Russia might retaliate with greater ferocity. Across newsrooms and think tanks, one question dominated. Had Ukraine crossed a threshold that would fundamentally alter the course of the war? Meanwhile, Russia's state-controlled media struggled to contain the fallout. News anchors adopted calm tones, insisting that the destroyed warehouse had been of little strategic importance. Yet leaked videos from the site contradicted these claims, showing firefighters struggling against towering flames and soldiers rushing to salvage what little remained. The dissonance between the official narrative and the undeniable evidence only deepened public mistrust. On the battlefield, the consequences were immediate. Reports surfaced of Russian artillery units cutting back their bombardments, forced to ration ammunition more carefully. Ukrainian soldiers, long battered by endless shellfire, noted the sudden change in rhythm. Trenches that had once shaken under relentless barrages now experienced unusual silence, broken only by sporadic bursts. For the first time in months, the battlefield tipped slightly in Ukraine's favor. The psychological impact on Russian troops was profound. Soldiers whispered that if such a massive facility could be obliterated, nowhere was safe. Fear of further strikes gnawed at morale, eroding what little confidence remained in their commanders. Some units even reported desertions, men slipping away under cover of darkness rather than waiting for the next explosion to claim them. The warehouse had been more than just a supply hub. It had been a symbol of stability, and its destruction left a gaping void. In Kyiv, officials seized the moment to rally international support. They released carefully timed statements, emphasizing not just the tactical significance of the strike, but the moral one as well. Every missile we launch to defend ourselves is one less weapon Russia can use against civilians, one official declared. The message resonated globally, painting Ukraine as not just a nation under siege, but one capable of striking back with precision and purpose. As night returned to the battlefield, the glow of the destroyed warehouse still haunted the horizon. The ruins smoldered like a scar carved into the landscape, a testament to the fragility of Russia's war machine. For Ukraine, it was a triumph of courage and ingenuity. For Russia, it was a staggering loss that exposed cracks in its armor. And for the world, it was a reminder that this war was far from decided, and that every strike carried the potential to reshape its destiny.